And it looks like we're live. Mile high hello, everybody in Broncos country, and welcome into another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers live podcast. I am your host, Lance Sanderson, as always, and joining me today is my good friend and colleague. He is your Denver Broncos insider and Mile High Huddle senior NFL draft analyst, the one and only Erick Trickel. Erick, it's been a very interesting 24 hours. It's just seeing these new mock drafts come up and everything that's going on with the community. Last night was a great talk doing our mock drafts, our last ones before we get into the Thursday episode and whatnot like that. And also the Mile High Huddle Roundtable coming up tomorrow night as well. But dude, how you doing today? It's good to talk to you again. It's good to be back on in front of everybody. What's up?
Not much, man. I'm just sitting here trying to keep my cool because I see Brian Greenfield in the comment section already triggering me with about Henry Ruggs. But yeah, I'm doing good, man. Just super excited. Going to be having Taco Bell for dinner. Unfortunately, that's like the only place nearby. But we're getting Dairy Queen.
Hey,
so it kind of balances out.
Yeah, get you that Blizzard, dude. I'm telling you. I said get the 6-pack of Doritos Locos Supreme Tacos and a mint chocolate Blizzard, and that's the key dinner right there, dude.
Mint and chocolate does not go together.
Are you kidding me, dude?
Mint
no,
and chocolate does not go together. No. I'm going with my normal cookie dough Blizzard. Okay.
I can get behind that too. That's all right. I like the double fudge brownie one as well. But anyways, today, guys, we are breaking down Chad Reuters' new 7-round mock draft on NFL.com, and it's shall we say, controversial. I know that Erick doesn't feel very good about it. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And as I'm looking through the comment stream before we get going live, there's just so many people that absolutely hate this mock draft, calling it a worst case scenario, a big pile of garbage. Like, how do these people get paid to do what they do? But still, I mean, it's just another person's opinion. We're right up there. It's a good way for people to get clicks. It's a good way to generate conversation and stuff like that. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to break this down. We're going to tell everybody, the players that we might have picked over the top of some of the guys that Chad Reuters picked and whatnot like that. But first, a couple quick matters of business here. You can follow us both on Twitter. You can get at me at Sanderson MHH and for Erick at Erick Trickel. Notice the CK in Erick.
Real quick, every time you say you notice a CK, I always want to say notice the EL at the end.
Yes, the EL as well. It's not LE, it is EL. You can follow the show at DVDD_pod. Make sure you guys are following at Mile High Huddle. It's the mother account. It is the one where you get your breaking news analysis, insider articles, good film breakdowns, stuff like that on your Denver Broncos. And also, if you get a chance, I'm not going to find the card here to pull it up, but if you get a chance, head on over to huddleuppod.com. Go get you guys a new hat. There's some t-shirts, tanks, got a coffee cup coming soon from the sound of it, a hoodie. I mean, get yourself some swag, support the show, do whatever you can. And also, if you're on the stream right now, make sure you click the like button. Like it, share it, get it out to as many people as you possibly can, because that is simply the easiest way to support our show. Literally, it's the easiest way to do it. Now, Erick, we've got some super chats coming in. We'll get to those here in just a minute, but I want to get your opinion on the number 15 overall pick that Chad Reuters made for the Broncos, and it's one that I absolutely cannot stand, with the linebacker Kenneth Murray out of Oklahoma at number 15 overall. This is terrible, in my opinion. I mean, you're leaving Jerry Jeudy on the board. Jedrick Wills is there. Javon Kinlaw is there. I wouldn't necessarily go Justin Jefferson at 15 or a guy like Denzel Mims. Or I could see that, but to leave Jerry Jeudy on the board, Javon Kinlaw, I mean, even Xavier McKinney. Are you kidding me? To go with Kenneth Murray out of Oklahoma? This is worst case scenario in my mind.
So, real quick, hey Stu, hey Glenn, how you guys doing? See you guys.
Yes, hello everybody.
So, hello everybody. And then the whole thing with taking Kenneth Murray is, so Nick Kendall absolutely hates Kenneth Murray. He doesn't like him whatsoever. I think that it's something like probably Kenneth Murray like poked him in the eyes or something like back in school. I don't know. But he absolutely hates him, and I like him a little bit more. I think that there's a little bit more coverage upside than a lot of other people do. But at 15, no way. Like, I don't think that the value's there. I liked him better. I like him better than Devin Bush, and Devin Bush had a second-round grade for me. And the play that we saw from him last year was worth that because he was terrible in coverage. So I'm not going Kenneth Murray here. Like, I just don't like the pick at all. I think that he's a very good run defender, but the linebacker class, I think, is a little bit better than what a lot of other people think. And I think that you can go get a guy who's a lot better in coverage than Kenneth Murray is, who may not be as good against the run, but I'm fine taking that hit there a little bit because you have Alexander Johnson and Todd Davis already on roster. So the way I would be going with this, and as you said, is that I kind of did my own little mock draft with this, just going off with how other things fell. And I'd be going Javon Kinlaw here. I mean, he's just the guy that if the top two receivers are gone and Henry Ruggs and CeeDee Lamb for the Broncos, then Javon Kinlaw is the way I'm going at 15 if I can't trade down. I mean, there's nothing wrong with boosting his strength. I mean, Shelby Harris is on a 1-year deal. Mike Purcell's on a 1-year deal. Go get Kinlaw, let him develop, and let him either start this year over Shelby Harris, who I think is better in a sub role, by the way, or let him develop with Shelby Harris starting opposite Terrell Casey, and then you can go put Javon Kinlaw in the start of things over that. I mean, like, I don't know. The Kenneth Murray just makes absolutely zero sense. It's not even the worst case scenario kind of thing because there's still a lot of talent left.
Yeah, well, it's not a worst case scenario because there's players that went before the Broncos got a chance to pick. This isn't like we're picking 1920 where the top 4 offensive tackles gone, the top 4 wide receivers are gone. You've got all the top 4 quarterbacks that are gone. Not that the Broncos need to do that. C.J. Henderson, Jeffrey Okudah, potentially Kristen Fulton might be gone at that particular point. But still, it's just like, to take Kenneth Murray over a high upside young linebacker that improved a lot at LSU last year and Patrick Queen, like I would rather take Patrick Queen at 15 over Kenneth Murray. Like there's, I see the higher upside with him in coverage. I see a guy that's a little bit more fluid, a guy that does a good job, high athleticism, kind of a guy that can go sideline to sideline, good tackler as well. Kenneth Murray is like as Nick likes to say, it's almost like watching a dog chasing a truck that's driving by. He sees ball and then go attack ball. There's no instincts. He doesn't play with instincts. He's not a very good mover in space as well. It's more of a let the ball come to me, and if I get a chance to go and do something with it, then I'm going to go and do something with it. Now, it's just so frustrating to see something like that happen.
So before we move on, there's a couple things that in the comment section going on that I want to address. I saw somebody ask me a question about. Let me see if I can't find it. Johnny Blaze. Eric, why do you think the Broncos should get a running back? Don't you think the team has other important needs? I do, but here's the thing: is Melvin Gordon has serious injury history. Philip Lindsay has two, and don't get me wrong, Philip Lindsay's good, but he has that wrist issue that still bothered him this last season. And Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay are just under contract until after the 2021 season. Then in the day and age of the NFL, you need to have 3 quality backs. Royce Freeman has failed. There is absolutely nothing that shows that he's going to turn it around all of a sudden. And all the analytics are going against him and everything, and I don't see it there. So I do think I'm not going and drafting a guy in the top 100. I'm not drafting a guy before probably round 5, 6, or 7. But yeah, I definitely think the Broncos should add a running back because it would also help take the pressure off of Drew Lock. And then I saw somebody else that's going on about how Shermer's offense doesn't push the ball, which he does. It all depends on who's the receivers he has. With the New York Giants last year, once he had Darius Slayton there, he pushed the ball downfield a lot more often. Then the same guy, I believe it was, made a comment about Shermer doesn't let his receivers, his second receivers don't catch more than 40 passes. That's not entirely true either. It also depends on who's there. If he doesn't have a quality number 2, then obviously he's not going to use them as much. I mean, with the Giants, a lot of people are pointing to that, but I mean, he had Saquon Barkley and his other receivers couldn't stay healthy.
Well, he also had Evan Ingram in the mix too, and Evan Ingram got his fair share as well. So
yeah, I mean, they had a decent talent around, but the focal point of that whole offense was Saquon Barkley, and at receivers, and counting Evan Ingram with this group because he's more receiver than tight end in my opinion, is when they were healthy, you just had to spread the ball around, but they struggled to stay healthy. I mean, I can't remember how many receivers this last year that the Giants went through because they all kept getting banged up.
If I remember correctly, Cody Latimer actually had a heyday there and for a few days as well. Cody Latimer has. But anyways, so going back to the comment stream before we continue on our conversation, I'm going to go grab some of these super chats really quick. Nad Ludlow, super chat superstar, coming in with a $5 donation. Going to miss the show tonight, but just wanted to show some love. Hey, we love you too, buddy. It's all right. Hey, sometimes real life events happen. We know what's going on in the world right now. I mean, earlier today, I really didn't get a chance to break down what was going on with all the mock drafts and everything as far as the Broncos goes. I had a birthday party to go to with my nephews. I mean, sometimes just life happens. It's not a big deal. We understand it. Flippin' Booch coming in with a $2 donation. We need a wide receiver, a center, a linebacker over offensive line. Thoughts? I guess I don't understand that because technically Seriously, technically, center is an offensive line. I'm guessing you're thinking like interior offensive line, which still is also a center, maybe a tackle. Booch, come back to us on that. Holden Adams coming in with a $5 donation. Holden, thank you. We see you, man. We see you on the comment stream a lot. What is your realistic home run scenario for rounds 1 and 2? Mine is take Ruggs at 15, trade up to the end of round 1 for Ruiz, take Chin at 46. Thanks, guys. Denver Broncos for life. Now, this is actually kind of an interesting scenario, but it's one that's very unrealistic. Just because if you're going to trade up into the tail end of the first round to go get a guy like Cesar Ruiz, you're going to have to give up 46. Like, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're giving up at least 46 and probably 2 third-round picks to be able to make that kind of a trade happen. So the value there, I love Chin at 46, or you're going to have to give up a future pick. You might end up having to give up a future second, maybe even a future first, which is something that I never want to do. You want to maximize those first-round picks as much as you can. If you can gain more first-round picks in later years by trading off players, then sure, trade out of 15 and to someone like 30. Say Green Bay wants to come up and get a wide receiver, which I think would be a really good fit there. If they want to give up a future first round pick, so you have 2 in 2021, then sure, I can see that. But to give up your future first round picks, those premium players, I'm not about that life. That's just not going to happen for me.
Yeah, I'm not sure how Denver would be getting up without either giving up a future first or second round pick and 46 or a player that's a high quality player for them. I mean, I just don't see it. I mean, there's somewhere I kept seeing a bunch of people going off about how, like 77 and 118 will do it, and no team's going to take that unless they are super desperate to get out of that pick, which I don't see why they would. I just don't get it. Like, it just doesn't make much sense for me to do that at all. So,
well, I could see if you're going to give up 77 and 188, you might even have to give up what's the pick in the 90s, 93, I think, or whatever the heck it is. If you could give up those 2 third-round picks, you might be getting into the 50s area and get into the tail end of the second round. But to getting back into the first, you're giving up at least that second-round pick and possibly a future one. Let's see. There was another couple that had come in, and then after this, Brian Greenfield coming in, $2 donation. Brian, thank you, coming down off of Mount Rushmore. We really appreciate you, man. Super chat superstar the way that you are. I think we need a wide receiver, center, and a defensive back over linebacker or guard/tackle. And I would wholeheartedly agree with that. I know that you were very against going and getting Henry Ruggs in the first round just on your own personal bias, which is fine. Everybody has their own cup of tea, the way that they like to stir their drink, whatever you want to call it. Like Ruggs to me is amazing. I have Judy number 1 in the class. I know Erick has Lamb number 1 in the class, but to go up and get a wide receiver in the first round, if you're going to trade up to do it, I would agree with that. I could see a center as well, but I'm not going to trade up to do that. I could see trading up for Ruiz, but see what comes to you. I know Erick, you have Keith Ishmael, the center out of San Diego State, as a potential 4th round target. Matt Hennessy as well. Nick Harris, a guy that may not necessarily fit the scheme, but I could see that happening as well, seeing if Mike Munchak could do something with him. But a defensive back, obviously, of course, I would love to get Jeff Gladney. AJ Terrell, maybe. I'd rather have Trevon Diggs if I could have it in the second round. But yeah, I could agree with that.
I definitely agree to an extent. I think that it all really depends on who's the guard or tackle option is that's there at 15 early on. I mean, there's just a lot of variables in play. I mean, if it's a guy like Jedrick Wills or Tristan Wirfs, then obviously that's the way I'd be going, because they offer that guard versatility. You can kick Graham Glasgow into center, and then you can sit there and let them get experience on the field and then move them over to tackle at some point, either this year or next year. I mean, news came out that Elijah Wilkinson, who is terrible at right tackle, is going to be pushing Garrett Bowles at left tackle, and I don't think he'll win out. I think this is just trying to send a message to Garrett Bowles. But they have, I mean, if they don't pick up his 5th-year option, they can move on from Garrett Bowles after the season. They can move on from Jawan James after the season as well. So I definitely think that it really just depends on how things fall. On paper anyways, I do agree a little bit.
Yeah. Coming back to the wide receiver 2 conversation really quick before we get going on here. Derek Bard coming in as a $5 super chat. Thank you, Derek. We appreciate you for joining us today. Shermer uses a wide receiver 2 for about 40 catches a year. Why spend a blue chip pick on a position that is going to be underutilized? Lots of speed in the second or third. I see that, but also at the same time, I still disagree with it, man. Like you go back to when Pat Shurmur was the offensive coordinator in Minnesota, when he had Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen. Those guys both caught over 70 catches, over 1,000 yards apiece, had a handful of touchdowns apiece, and that offense was clicking, even with Case Keenum as the quarterback. I mean, yes, they had Dalvin Cook running the football, and he was running the ball very well. That offensive line, I think, was playing a little bit better than credited. Their defense was also lights out as well as Xavier Rhodes. Trey Waynes was doing a very good job on the outside. But just going back to the wide receiver 2 conversation, if he has 2 quality wide receivers, he's going to figure out a way to use them. And he's going to find, if he has a quality pass catching running back coming out of the backfield, like a Dalvin Cook, or say, Melvin Gordon, he's going to figure out a way to incorporate them into the offense. He's going to do what he can. Pat Shurmur is pretty, what's the word that I'm looking for? Pretty innovative. He does a lot of different things. He's not going to stick to the same bread and butter stuff like a Gary Kubiak would. He's going to be a lot more on the innovative side, and he's going to figure out a way to use someone like that. Now, Eric, we're going to get back to the mock draft here from Chad Reuters. Yes.
I want to address that. So Here's the thing with this. There's a lot of variables in play about that. And I know that his average for the number 2 receiver is right around 40 catches. But you have to look at when he has the talent, what injuries are occur. Looking at the 2019 New York Giants real quick. Sterling Shepard had 57 catches. Typically, your number 1 receiver is having 90+. Saquon Barkley had 52 catches. Okay, that's your running back. Golden Tate had 49. Darius Slayton had 48. Evan Ingram had 44. Caden Smith had 31. Cody Latimer had 24. Benny Fowler had 23. None of these guys played a full 16-game slate. The most of them that they played was 15 with Cody Latimer. Then Darius Slayton played 14. So he was dealing with injuries from those guys that he just couldn't sit there and continuously use them. When he has the talent there at number 2 receiver, he uses them. And when you look at a guy like Henry Ruggs, you don't need to get him the ball for him to have an impact either. And I think that's what a lot of people are forgetting. They just want to look at that production directly on hand. And that's just, it's not the right way to look at it with some players. And Henry Ruggs, that's the case. He's still going to be a guy that's going to be able to go catch you like 70, 80 balls during the season and go pick up 1,000 yards and a handful of touchdowns for you. But it's what he's also not opening up without the ball in his hands too that people have to factor in.
And just like James coming in here, he says, isn't that more of an argument for Ruggs? He affects more than the other receivers, affecting defensive coverages, giving Sutton one-on-ones that would have a chance to house those touches. And also, we talked about this last night, and I know it's a big talking point for anybody that's talking about Henry Ruggs right now. Just the amount of times that when he touches the ball, it's like 24.8% of the time he touches the football, he takes it to the house. And it's not just, go up and get as a red zone target. He's doing it from distance as well, almost 30 yards on average per touchdown. There's a lot of juice to that. Like, I can see that. Now, to get onto this mock draft just a little bit, the 2nd round pick, the Denver Broncos, or Chad Reuters has the Denver Broncos taking AJ Epinesa, the defensive end out of Iowa. And I want to say defensive end, but they really list him as an edge. But as far as an edge is concerned for the Broncos, he's not going to be that Von Miller or Bradley Chubb kind of role. They're going to slide him inside. He's going to play a true defensive end in a 3-4 system. And when the Broncos do go into sub packages, he'll play that 5/7 technique where he's going to line up inside guard or tackle shoulder, and he's going to rush the passer from the interior. He has the size and length to be able to do so. I really liked this pick just because of the value. There's an extreme value. Earlier in the offseason, when Epinesa was coming up in the early draft process, there were a lot of people calling him a top 10, 15 pick in this class. Then he bombs the combine, doesn't test athletically well enough, but still at the same time, there's a lot of talent there. I love his hand play. I like the way that he uses his leverage and strength to affect the interior of the pocket. He could be a huge add for this Broncos defense, especially if they miss out on Javon Kinlaw in the 1st round.
Yeah, I don't mind the AJ Epinesa pick. I mean, he's a guy that's going to come in as a 5 tech in the Broncos scheme for it, and I'm perfectly fine with it. I think that's where he's best suited anyways. I do wish his explosion rating was a little bit higher.
Yeah.
I don't care about his overall 40 time. I care about the 10-yard split. That's the number that people should care about because that's what matters most when you're looking at defensive linemen, not that overall 40. But I still like the pick, but I think that with looking at who else is available, with me, I would have gone Matt Hennessy here. I mean, you go get yourself a guy who can start at center day one, fits a scheme, smart guy, that just round out your interior offensive line unit with Dalton Reisner, Matt Hennessy, and Graham Glasgow, and you're fine. You call it good, and you can move on. And then at 77, he went with Troy Pride here, and I'm sitting here, I was looking at who left was available, and I was actually absolutely shocked. He had my
Yes.
number one rated safety, and I don't know what it is with Chad Reuters. Most people I've spoken to has Xavier McKinney as their number one. And here we are at 77, and Xavier McKinney was still on the board. So, of course, instead of going Troy Pride, who I like, but I think this is a little bit early, I'm going Xavier McKinney. You guys go. You just got yourself a versatile defensive back that can drop down and play the slot as well as playing in the box and playing deep.
Well, I noticed that the last time that Chad Reuters did it, it was about a month ago, I think, when Chad Reuters did his last 7-round mock draft. He had Xavier McKinney is still available in this area as well. And I'm like, seriously? And I think I brought that up to you in our group chat with Nick and Carl was, why is Xavier McKinney not getting any love from Chad Reuters? I don't understand that at all. And to kind of bounce off of that, he's definitely undervaluing the safety class if you look at what he has with Ashton Davis. Ashton Davis, the safety out of California, a lot of people are saying he could be a fringe like tail end of the first round, second round pick, maybe at the very latest in the third round. He has Ashton Davis at 193 in the sixth round. It's insane the way that he is undervaluing this safety class this year. But yeah, I mean, Troy Pride, I would have went with either Ashton Davis or Xavier McKinney. McKinney would be the guy that I really would have went with, but I would have been okay with Ashton Davis there as well, even with Justin Simmons in the fold. Going back to the super chats here, Brian Greenfield stepping back in with another $10 donation. Brian, thank you, dude. We appreciate it, man. Ruggs was very good against press and physical corners at the college level. Doesn't that worry you guys? I'm scared about that pick. I'm not sure what you're saying there. I hope he goes to the Raiders. I would hate it if he went to the Raiders. And I think what you're saying is he wasn't very good against press and physical corners.
He added that correction in chat.
Okay, I apologize about that. So I see that, and we talked about this just a little bit last night with teaching guys to get off the line of scrimmage. That's a coachable issue. The hand fighting, the hand placement, the punch, it rip swipe moves and stuff like that. So just to give you kind of an example here, rip across your face and swipe and then shimmy outside and go. That's an easy way to teach somebody how to do that. Like it's a lot easier, especially with a stutter step and a quick acceleration burst that Henry Ruggs has. If you teach him the technique, he will be so much better against press coverage. And especially if he's going to play in the slot, like I figure he would do with the Broncos a lot of the time, he's not going to play against press coverage. He's going to be playing off ball. He's going to get a safety or a nickel cornerback somewhere off the ball a little bit, and he's going to be able to work it with, and then especially use his speed with Shermer developing plays and scheming plays for him in the slot, utilizing that speed, misdirections with him as well. Why would you say no to that?
So if you want to see what Ruggs can do against press, turn on his tape against LSU when he was matched up against Christian Fulton and basically got off the line at will against Christian Fulton's press. Yep. He was considered one of the toughest pressers in the draft. He definitely has the potential there. I think people are underestimating his ability against the press and overrating his inability there just because of a few times he does have some issues. He does have inconsistencies there, but it is something that he has shown the potential to do and against one of the best press coverage corners in the draft. So that's that I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about it either. That's, like I said, it's a coachable issue. You can't teach speed. You can't teach acceleration. You can't teach good hands. I mean, you can work on hands and work on concentration and stuff like that, but he has just natural, smooth pass-catching hands. You can't teach that. Stu McPeak coming in off of Mount Rushmore. Stu, we see you, dude. We appreciate it. Everything you do for us at Mile High Huddle, not only here building the Broncos with the Huddle Up podcast, we appreciate it, man. Thank you for joining us once again tonight.
So, Stu, I think it's safe to say that you have definitely replaced Lance's face on Mount Rushmore for Mile High Huddle. So, no doubt about that.
Well, I like the skyline picture in his avatar, but at least we get to see my face. It might not be the prettiest face to look at, but at least we get to see mine.
Oh, I was just getting ready to go there. At least we don't have to deal with his face on the MHH Mount Rushmore anymore. It's kind of hard to look at.
All right, so let's just rapid fire the rest of this off here really quick. I'll give you some chance to review your takes and just some players that you would have taken over some of the guys that he's taken. We were at Troy Pride Jr. The next pick was Michael Pittman Jr. out of USC. I hate the pick, absolutely hate it. I would rather have like a Donovan Peoples-Jones there. It's just the Broncos are looking for more speed. I like Pittman, just not for the Broncos. It just doesn't fit to me. Then he goes Jonah Jackson, interior offensive lineman from Ohio State. My initial reaction was, meh, okay, you got a quality guard prospect. It's a scheme fit, but whatever. It doesn't move the needle for me. Joe Reed, the University of Virginia wide receiver. my first thing was, who is that? I have no idea who this guy even is. Like, Erick's the senior draft analyst. I'll get his take here in just a minute, but who is that guy? Cam Clark, the offensive tackle out of Charlotte. Again, no idea who that is. Jake Luton, the quarterback from Oregon State, long, tall, lanky, no arm, no. It's a developmental quarterback. I guess I could be on board with that, but no. Then you get Miles Dorn, the North Carolina safety. Don't know anything about him either. And then Raymond Calais. And this was where my analysis actually came back and said, finally, he did something right.
So going over this is, I'm with you. I absolutely hate the Michael Pittman pick. Here's the thing. He's Cortland Sutton Jr.
Yes.
Like, you don't need two of those same types of players on an offense. It's just not going to work. You're going to have issues with spacing, and you're just going to have issues with lacking the versatility that you need on an offense to really, push the ball and attack defenses. I mean, with guys who are left available, you had Darnay Holmes, Akeem Davis-Gaither, Kyle Duggar, Laryl Murchison. I would have gone Akeem Davis-Gaither here. You have a guy who's versatile on your defense that can go sit there and move him around, let him play in the nickel. You can let him play a little bit as a deep safety. You can just move him around and have a versatile piece. Something that is a big focus with defenses nowadays is you got to have versatility. It's like on the offensive line. You got to be able to play two spots. If you don't, teams aren't going to like you as much. You have to have that versatility. At number 5, Jonah Jackson. I actually really like Jonah Jackson. I think that he's actually a really good guard prospect. But my thing is at this point, I'm looking at who is left available. And I see Michael Ojemudia out of Ohio or out of Iowa. And I'm just sitting there, all right, we still need a corner. I mean, I've already gotten a defensive back. I've already gotten a linebacker. We still could use another defensive back because I think that the Broncos could be going around to more of a more defensive back type look, kind of like a 4-1-6, maybe even an empty linebacker set with a 5-6 front, just letting those linebackers or letting those defensive backs play like a safety. Or play like a linebacker, I mean. Sorry, I thought there was a knock at my door. Then with Joe Reed, I like him as an undrafted free agent. I mean, this is a guy that I think that he can really be a weapon for an offense, but he's definitely got to have a lot of development needed. Not a fan of that. And with looking at who is left available, I see that Donovan Peoples-Jones is. I mean, this is a guy who has decent speed. He can work decently after the catch, can go challenge outside, challenge inside, just a guy that you can just move around and attack defenses in different ways with. That's the way I would have gone. Then let's see here. Who is the next guy?
Cameron Clark.
Cameron Clark. I like Cameron Clark. I mean, he's going to be an interior offensive lineman in the NFL, not a tackle like he was at Charlotte. But he's a guy that I like. I would be okay with that pick at this point. But I'm looking at it and just looking at what Denver's defense could use some speed, some added speed to it. And went with another defensive back. Is it ideal? No, but here what I was trying to do is I was trying to keep it within between the two picks. I mean, this is 178. There were 2 other picks between 178 and 181. Not a lot of options. L'Jarius Sneed was a nice one there. 181, Jake Luton. Not a fan of his. He's a guy. If you want a developmental quarterback, then there were other options left in Chad Reuters' mock draft to go. James Morgan, Kevin Davidson out of I can't remember where Florida International, I believe is what it is.
Yeah,
and then Princeton for Davidson. I would have gone with one of those guys instead if you wanted a quarterback. But Devin Duvernay was still on the board, and I don't see it. He's a top 100 player for me. That's the way I would have gone. And rounding out the last two picks, Miles Dorn, the safety. Michael Onwenu was 253. I would have gone with Michael Onwenu. You get a developmental guard option. There's that. And then Raymond Calais, I would have left him stacking speed on top of speed for this offense and just letting them go to work in attacking defenses in so many different ways that they are so hard to prepare for.
Yeah, it's this whole mock draft actually left such a bad taste in my mouth that I went and there was a link to Bucky Brooks's first round mock draft is version 4.0 for him, and I was like, I like Bucky. I think that he does a good job. I think Chad usually does a good job as well. So I clicked on Bucky just to go get and wash the taste out of my mouth. And he picked CJ Henderson at 15 for the Broncos, and I had to shut my laptop down. I couldn't do it anymore. Seriously, CJ Henderson, I love the coverage ability. I hate the tackling ability. He just doesn't seem like a fit for the Broncos. He's better in man, not very well suited for zone. I think he has the ability to play in zone, but at the same time, it's just, man, come on. He had Henry Ruggs going to 21 to the Philadelphia Eagles. Seriously? Come on, it's upsetting to me. But let's get back to this comment stream just a little bit. Let's see what we can get. Erick, any other final thoughts on that while I go look through this really fast?
I have nothing but respect for Chad Reuters, but this mock was terrible for the Broncos.
Yeah.
Like it really screamed to me that he was just a guy. There were a few teams that he had in mind, and here's the thing too, that I don't envy the job that he has to do. He has to go and create a 7-round mock for all 32 teams.
Yeah,
that isn't easy to do. I've tried multiple times, and by the time I hit rounds 5 or 6, I'm done. Like I'm so exhausted mentally from it that I'm just done. So I don't want to fault him too much for having these issues or these problems within his mock, as I get it. But it's like, come on, man. Like it's not hard to make it a little bit better.
Yeah, it absolutely is. There's a super chat that's coming in, but I want to grab this question really fast from Robert Caslow. This is a very good question, especially if you're trying to learn about schemes and stuff like that. What is the difference in defensive line technique? Example, 3-tech versus 5-tech. A lot of that is actually, it's specifically on the defensive line. It's their alignment. So you have, it moves from inside to out. So you have your 0-tech is your typical nose tackle. He's lined up directly on the center. You have your 1-tech who is lined up between center and guard, and sometimes they'll shade either way. Then you have 3-tech lined up over guard, 5-tech between guard and tackle, 7-tech directly over tackle, and then a wide 9. So it's odd numbers, but a 5-tech, and there's different alignments for that as well. You can have a 3-eye, so 3 would be straight up over the guard, eye inside shoulder, and line up there. You have a 5 technique or a 5-eye. Eric, go ahead.
So your 0 technique, to put it, is lined up straight on the center. Then your 1 technique is in that gap, the A gap between the center and the guard. Your 2 technique is straight up on the guard. Your 3 technique is he's kind of on the outside shoulder of the guard, kind of into that B gap. Then you have a 4-eye, which is your 4 interior. He's kind of lined up on the interior shoulder of the tackle, with a 4 technique kind of lined up straight on with the tackle. 5 technique is on the outside shoulder of the tackle. Then you have your 7 technique, which is typically way outside of the tackle, kind of attacking that C gap, typically lined up on the inside shoulder of the tight end. Then for some reason, don't know why, 6 technique, it comes after the 7 technique. That's face on with your tight end. Then your wide 9 is outside the tight end's shoulder. And that's the biggest thing, is how you line up. And then that's where you kind of get into body types and athleticism and all that, and all these other traits with it that come in, like your 0 techniques. If you are more of a 2-gapping defensive front, and there's a difference between 1-gapping and 2-gapping, your 0 technique is you want a guy who's squatty, who can squat, be powerful, and just maintain both A gaps about that with controlling the guard or controlling the center. Then at your basically your 1, you can be a little bit quicker. That's typically more of a 1-gap scheme where you're just kind of shooting that gap. 3 gaps again is another thing. Like you typically see that, or a 3 technique is typically more of a 4-3 front. You typically have a 1 technique and a 3 technique for a 4-man front. And just in your base packages, that's the guy that's attacking the guard. He's typically a little bit more athletic, very quick, a guy who can sit there and cross the guard's face really quickly just to try and get pressure on the quarterback. Then when you get to your 4-5 techniques, those are guys like Derek Wolfe, a little bit more power to them, can hold up, but they have some ability to get after the quarterback on the outside. Your 7, 6, and 9 techniques, those are guys like Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, guys that are a lot more athletic, a little bit smaller, a lot faster, that can sit there and turn the corner, get underneath the guard, or get underneath the tackle's outside shoulder, and just bend the corner to get after the quarterback.
Man, drop some knowledge really fast. I mean, I understand some defensive line techniques and stuff like that, but you went into a completely whole new level on my end. Like I said, 0, 1, 3, 5. Those are the ones that we typically talk about. You don't get into a lot of specifics like Eric went, but still, that's what you're really looking for. Now to go back to our super chat really fast, Terry Randall comes in with a $5 donation from up north, showing that Broncos country is not a geographic location. It is in fact a state of being. Speed, both sides of the ball. Hashtag state of being. Hashtag Super Saturday Sanderson. Hey, cheers, mate. But yes, thank you, Terry, for joining us. There's a lot to learn. There really is a lot to learn, especially with Eric on the show. Learning more about the prospects, learning more about what people do and stuff like that. There's a lot to learn on that. So, Eric, I do appreciate that. We're having him back in with another $2 donation. Speed, he says, with a bunch of exclamation points. All right, so we're at 35 minutes here, guys. We're gonna have to wrap it up and get out of here soon. Let's see, Eric, go ahead and actually let me go back to the comments. Just hold on for a second.
I have a couple questions real quick.
Go ahead. Yes.
Robert Castle asks about what about John Hightower. I really like John Hightower. At one point, he had like 1 touchdown for every 2 touches that he had. Just tremendous player with what he can do. I really like that he has good speed. It's a little bit more straight line, so he doesn't have much wiggle after the catch. But you can use him as a running back. You can use him as a returner. You can use him as a deep threat. But I just think that he's a little bit more limited. He doesn't have that respectable speed that you really want from a true deep threat in the NFL. So I think that he's a guy that maybe you want more catching these quick screens and letting him go quickly or slants. But he definitely has the potential to be that deep threat for it. I like him a little bit. I like him somewhere around 4, maybe around 5, depending on how the board falls, especially when it comes to receivers. But I definitely think that there are a lot of limitations with him, and his hands are terrible, which is something that's very concerning for me. Bonham Beast asks, hey, Eric, any thoughts on your number 29 running back from Huntley? 29 running back Huntley from New Mexico State as a late round fit. I like him. I mean, he's a guy who can run tough between the tackles. I want to see him keep his head up a little bit more when he's running. He has a tendency to lower it, and when you're looking at the ground, you can't see really which way's there, and he'll often run into the defenders instead of being able to see the hole and just be like maybe just keeping his head up. Could be an additional 2 yards instead of just nothing, and those 2 yards can be the difference between a first down and a third or fourth down. So that's something that he definitely needs to work on, is just keeping his head up, because he definitely leaves a lot of yards on the field as a result of that.
Yeah. Brian Greenfield coming back in with another $2 donation. Thank you, Brian. Who do you guys like better, Mims or Jefferson? And I'm going to take this one away really fast. I like Justin Jefferson a lot, but the guy and I've been slapping this table for a long time, Denzel Mims is going to be the third wide receiver taken. I don't have him as my third wide receiver. I have it Judy Lamb Ruggs, and then I have Mims as my number 4. I like Justin Jefferson. I think he's limited to being a slot receiver. I think he can play on the outside, but he's better suited as a slot receiver. I think with the added benefit of Mims, the height, weight, speed, athleticism, the hands, the ability to go up and catch the ball, high point the football at the highest point, the ability of him as a blocker. I think he has a good technical route running base as well. I think that there's a lot to work with Denzel Mims. He can also play inside if he has to. It's not necessarily his strongest suit, but I'm with Nick on this. The added benefit of playing on the outside and as a player that can take the top off the defense, I think that I have Mims higher on my board for that specific reason. But I do like Justin Jefferson a lot. I'm not saying that I wouldn't like Justin Jefferson at 15. I could swallow Denzel Mims at 15. I think that he's going to go. Well, stop it, Eric. I like if I had to take Denzel Mims at 15, I would be able to, I would be okay with that. I wouldn't take Justin Jefferson at 15. I'd look for a trade back if I had to do that.
So here's the thing with this is that Denzel Mims is definitely the better prospect because he can play outside. So with Justin Jefferson, he's a guy who he played 5 snaps outside last year compared to like 870 inside on the slot. And he was definitely effective inside the slot more than he was on the outside, going back to his whole career at that. Then real quick, there's a bunch of other questions. You guys are really coming.
They're coming in so fast. I can't even keep up with it.
King Hicks with the $2 donation. Thank you. Speed. Hashtag Hicks. Hashtag Terry. Definitely agree, man. The whole team can use some speed for it. Let's see here. Where is it? Jeremy comes in. Can you rank second tier OTs? Isaiah Wilson, Austin Jackson, Ezra Cleveland. Basically, if you switch Ezra Cleveland and Austin Jackson, that's how they go for me. I definitely like Isaiah Wilson. I think he has the power. I think he's got a little bit quicker feet than a lot of people think. Austin Jackson is way too raw, and I've seen way too many tackles that are raw like he is just fail in the NFL for me to be super high on him. Ezra Cleveland has some issues with strength, but I think that he has enough technical base to just win off that technique, and I'm sure Lance disagrees, but no one cares about Lance's opinion.
No, in fact, I like Isaiah Wilson. I don't understand the hype of him getting up into the first round right now. I think that Big Bully, the problem is that he's not very like a versatile prospect. He's not going to slide inside. He's not going to move over to the left side. He's specifically a right tackle. I think Austin Jackson has enough developmental upside that he can play both sides. He's not going to slide inside. Ezra Cleveland as well. So in that sense, I like Ezra Cleveland just a little bit more than Austin Jackson. Isaiah Wilson slides down to me because he is specifically a right tackle. There's not a lot of versatility to his game, and I do value versatility a lot. Brian Greenfield coming back in. How big is a drop if after Mims and Jefferson and is Rieger close? So how big is a drop off after Mims and Jefferson, and is Rieger close? Yes, I actually think Rieger is it just depends on what you look at. I like the if you go back to the tape, he plays a lot faster than the time that he ran at the combine. But if you go back, and there was actually a controversy with that, some of the times on the TV times at the combine were actually a lot slower than teams were than what actually it was. So there was a still shot of Jalen Rieger with his hand still on the ground. It was like 0.05 or something, 0.04, 0.05 was 0.04 was actually on the clock, and he hadn't even moved yet. So that takes that 4.47 to a 4.43. I think that he's a lot closer to that 4.28, 4.32 area that he ran at his pro day. The 4.22, don't buy that, but I can see it. He's a lot speedier than he is. I think that there's a little bit of versatility to him there as well. He can play. He's a little bit smaller. I like the way that he jumps. He can go up and get the ball. I question his hands as well. I don't think he's a natural hands catcher. He has a lot of concentration drops. So there's some issues there as well. But if you want to look at him, I'm guessing tail end of round 1. If a team like Green Bay falls in love with him, I would hate to see him go to Kansas City, but I'm guessing probably in the mid-30s is where Jalen Rieger goes. Justin Jefferson and Denzel Mims, to me, are first-round locks.
I definitely agree. I think that Jalen Rieger is pushing there. I have him lower than Brandon Ayuk, though. Biggest thing for me, though, is the focus drops are a little bit of a concern, but they can be coached up. And there is some questions about his attitude. I mean, it was very obvious on the field when watching his tape that he was getting super frustrated with the quarterback play and just the offense in general, the other players around him. And I can, to an extent, I can get that, especially the quarterback play. But I mean, this is actually, it's still something that's going to be a concern. Like Emmanuel Sanders, there's a lot of issues with him when the things weren't going his way on offense, that he started causing problems that helped lead to him getting traded. So I think that that's something that you definitely have to vet. And I think that this was under the circumstances, that it was actually hard to really vet those issues with Jalen Rieger. I mean, it's very easy to put on in front of a laptop computer, but meeting face to face, that's definitely a different issue and different ways to address that. So it's something to definitely factor in with this. And that's basically the reason why I think that I can actually see all 6 or 7 of those receivers end up going in the first.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that there's 5, maybe 6. So it would be the big 3: Mims, Jefferson. So there's 6, maybe a 7th. It's going to be Rieger or Ayuk. And I actually was doing my mock draft, the big fan-driven one, and I had a guy that come on and said that Brian Edwards, wide receiver out of South Carolina, was going to be taken by the Seattle Seahawks at number 27 overall, and I about died laughing.
So actually, after he messaged that to me, because he did message this to me earlier, is I started thinking about it, and I think that, don't get me wrong, I think that the late first is definitely a little bit rich for him, but I can get why some people like him. When I watch him play, I see a little bit of Demaryius Thomas in his game.
Yeah, yeah.
He definitely can do some stuff after the catch. He's definitely a big guy that can go get it. Definitely like him. I think that he's not as good as Demaryius Thomas was, but there's definitely that kind of role for him in the NFL that I can see somebody falling in love with him and taking him a lot earlier than people expect.
Yeah,
especially if the foot checks out.
Yeah, that's fair. I like him. Long, lanky, big athletic guy, kind of a guy. I like him a little bit better as a deep threat than Demaryius Thomas. But yeah, I could see that coming out. I actually had this kind of a weird conversation with myself earlier today, just thinking back, and Nick asked this question: what is your favorite draft crush, like a prospect to a team? And I was thinking about it. I was like, Denzel Mims at 30 to the Green Bay Packers to pair with Devontae Adams, that to me is amazing. But then I got to thinking just a little bit about the meteoric rise that we saw with Denzel Mims and the way that he rose up draft boards, the way that he did. Height, size, weight, speed, athleticism, meteoric rise, limited as far as a route tree goes, but still has a good technical base to work with, runs a 4.38, sneaks into the tail end of the first round. Demaryius Thomas. I'm not saying they're the same kind of a player, but I mean, Denzel Mims is 6'3", 207. Demaryius Thomas, 6'3", 228. They both ran a 4.38. They both jump out of the building. Meteoric rise. I can see the comparison there. I'm not saying that that's who they are. I think that Denzel Mims is actually a different receiver than Demaryius Thomas is, but still, it was just kind of a fun conversation that I had with that.
So, real quick, Robert Caslow comes in and asks, who is Burgess? And when Nick made that question, and I actually thought that probably my favorite fit in all of this, and it's with the Broncos, is Terrell Burgess and the Broncos. I don't think that there is any player in the Broncos in the draft that makes more sense for the Broncos than Terrell Burgess. This is a guy who he can be an elite nickel. He can play a deep safety, and there's enough physicality to his game to sit there and be not great in the box, but be effective in the box. I absolutely love his game. He's a safety out of Utah. He only has 1 year experience as a starter, so that is a little bit of a concern. Maybe it's just that they just started to tap into the potential there, and so he can still continue growing. That's what I would be betting on with him, and I would definitely take him at 77 overall. Or if Denver decided to trade down from 46, I would start looking at him then too. Absolutely love his game, love his fit, just really good player. And then Bill Allen comes in. Awesome guys, awesome job, guys. Keep it up. Broncos #Broncos County, Mississippi. Yeah, definitely. Thank you for your support. We definitely appreciate that. Hope everything is going well for you guys down there.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. State of being. #State of being. There was one other question. We got some more super chats, but there was one up here that I want to go grab really fast. And
so you're looking for that real quick. Terry Randall comes in with a $2 donation. Smash the like button. Yeah, guys, definitely smash that like button if you guys are enjoying this. It helps support the channel. So just smash that like button.
Yes, absolutely.
Smash it.
It's literally the easiest way for you guys to support us, to help us grow a little bit. We, like I said last night, we are the youngest of the Huddle Up podcast. So Dove Valley Deep Divers has only been going since about August. So with any support that we can get, we appreciate you guys coming in. I'm not finding the card that I have, but I remember exactly what it said. It was a question. I apologize if for not getting your card pulled up here, but would you be willing to trade back from 15, say you give 15 and 46 to the Minnesota Vikings for 22 and 25?
It really depends on how the board is falling. If at that point CeeDee Lamb and Henry Ruggs are gone and Javon Kinlaw's gone, yeah, I would definitely look into it. I mean, you have a chance at getting either Denzel Mims, maybe Justin Jefferson, one of those guys there, or even Cesar Ruiz. You can be looking at one of the offensive tackles that might be there. I think that's actually a decent trade idea. I would try and do something around involving the third round picks.
Yep.
Maybe 15 and 2 third round picks to go and get those 2 picks. Even at that point, I'd be willing to throw in a 2021 third round pick for it. I'd really want to keep that 46th overall pick. But
I agree with that. Yeah, keep as many picks inside the top 100 as you can. I would be willing to do that if you could do like a 1-3-5 drop down. So let's say a 1577. Honestly, I might be willing to give up 118 and then a 5th or a 6, something like that, if you have to throw on top to sweeten the pot just a little bit. 1-3-5 to drop down for 22 and 25. Target a Denzel Mims, a Justin Jefferson. Maybe you can get a Jeff Gladney coming in, maybe a Ross Blacklock out of TCU. That might be a decent pickup for the Broncos. Going back to the conversation, though, Terry Randall coming back in with another $2 donation. Smash the like button. Please do. We appreciate you, Terry. There's another one here, and then we're going to end up having to wrap it up here quickly, guys. So, any last-minute questions. Stephen Baumgartner coming in. Any more word on the Broncos-Brown trade in the first round? Steve coming in off of Mount Rushmore. Thank you with the $5 donation. We appreciate you, man. Any more word on the Broncos-Brown trade in the first round? Nothing that I've heard that's concrete. Eric, I don't know if you've heard anything from any of your sources yet, So
here's the thing is that John Elway likes to know the value of moving up just in case things start to fall the way that he hopes they fall. So he's been making calls. The Browns were one of the teams he made a call to, not the only team he's made a call to. He's just checking value. And if a trade were to happen, I think that it'd be draft night. It's not going to be something that happens beforehand, but he's just getting, hey, if the board falls where you want to move down, what would it take? What would you be wanting for? Because you don't want to go into the draft and just be like, all right, all of a sudden we want to move up to number 10. Let's just call them and see what we can get for them. You want some idea going in because it just takes a lot less time off of it. And I think this year, especially taking as much time off as possible of trying to get trades done is going to be tremendous for teams or be good for teams.
Well, and with something that you had talked about when this rumor first came out, and I was the first one to share it in our group chat. And then Nick wrote the article about it. Was that you had said that they have trades in place already with multiple teams, whether it's moves ups or moves down. There's a lot of conversation that goes on behind the scenes that nobody actually knows about. They're not leaking that kind of information. It depends on how the board falls. So, like, go back to when the Broncos picked Bradley Chubb, they already had a trade down with the Buffalo Bills, and the Buffalo Bills were targeting, I believe it was Josh Allen at the time, and the Broncos said, we will allow this trade down because we want to trade down and maybe go get like a Minkah Fitzpatrick, and that was a hyperbole, or that was a guess behind it. But the one player that they said we will trade down unless this player is available was Bradley Chubb. And guess what happened? They had Bradley Chubb available, and they decided to null and void the trade with the Buffalo Bills. So it does happen a lot where there's conversations going on behind the scenes that nobody actually knows. Nobody's going to leak that kind of information. So just the fact that Michael Lombardi got this scoop and said, hey, the Broncos and the Browns are trying to incorporate a trade to get the Broncos to 10, move back for the Browns, target a wide receiver. Obviously, that's a move that you can kind of see coming. But it wouldn't surprise me if they have like the Jets on the horn, the Jaguars as well, Arizona, who is looking for an offensive tackle. If they think that they can move back, still get an offensive tackle or interior defensive lineman, I could see that kind of happening. Who knows what is actually going on behind the scenes? So
there's a lot of variables with this, and yeah, teams typically, and the Broncos do have trades that are not necessarily set in stone because it depends on who's going to fall, how things fall, and everything like that. And as Lance mentioned, is in 2017 they actually did have a trade down, or 2018, whatever year that was. Seems like forever ago.
It wasn't forever ago.
They actually did have a trade down with the Bills, but it was all dependent on Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, and Bradley Chubb all being off the board. If those three went in the first 4 picks, Denver would have taken that trade. That's typically how teams operate. Here's the deal: if so and so doesn't fall to us, we'll move down. We'll take that deal. That's typically how things go. Last year, though, with the whole thing from moving down from 10, that was a little bit different. The Steelers just decided, hey, we'll take a shot here in the draft, and they really rushed to get that done. And I think that's one reason why Denver was able to fleece them a little bit with that trade.
Yeah. So another quick question. I got a really good one here, Eric. I'm sorry for interrupting you. I got a really good one here from Jinja Ninja 88. He's had it a couple times in here. Could we try and trade back into the first with the 49ers at 31 to take a center if we get a big 3 receiver at 15, maybe Hennessy or Ruiz? Now, the thing that makes this very interesting is with the 49ers, there was a lot of speculation leading up to even before free agency when the 49ers traded off to Forrest Buckner for the 13th overall pick, the 13th overall pick with the Indianapolis Colts, that because the 49ers do have a dearth. There's not a whole lot of draft compensation for the 49ers, not a whole lot of holes on that team. They're a pretty well-constructed roster, but for them to move back, help pick up some extra picks and whatnot like that, this is a move that really makes sense to me, especially if you can get away with not having to give up 46. If you have to give up that future second, maybe, but you better be identifying a guy that's going to be a long-term starter. I would like it a lot better if the Broncos were in a situation where they needed a quarterback and they needed to go get a guy like Jordan Love, if that was the way that they needed to go. With Locke in the fold, I would hate to give up 46 and maybe if that future second, but at the same time, it does make a lot of sense. If they get a wide receiver at 15 to one of the top 3 guys, and they really identify Cesar Ruiz as the guy that can move in, fill that starting center slot for a long time, and solidify that offensive line for the next 3 years with Juwan James and Garrett Bowles as far as their contract future with the team up in the air, I could see it. I don't know. It's a very interesting move, though.
I think that one of Matt Hennessy, Lloyd Cushenberry, or Cesar Ruiz, at least one of them, will be available at 46. And I don't think that what it would cost to trade up and go get Cesar Ruiz at 31 would be worth it to just not settle for one of the other guys at 46. I really like Cesar Ruiz, but it would depend on it would have to be efficient. It would have to be cost efficient, and it'd have to be equal the value of just getting Matt Hennessy or Lloyd Cushenberry at 46. And I have a hard time seeing that happen. Now, the question that I had is Bill1293 came in. How big of a drop-off is there with Rieger and Ruggs? It's a huge, huge drop-off. I mean, Rieger is a good player in his own right, but he's not the deep threat in the way that Henry Ruggs is. He's not the same kind of threat against the defense that Henry Ruggs is. And then you have the whole issue with drops. Jalen Reagor dropped, 9 passes, I think, this last year, maybe 7. I can't remember the exact number off of it. And Henry Ruggs only dropped 1 pass this last season. He's only dropped 3 or 4 his whole career. Definitely a difference in hands. So there's a huge drop off between the two.
Excuse me. Sorry about that. Yeah, like I said before, Rieger's a fringe like tail end of the first round prospect, second round prospect for sure. The drop off with Ruggs potentially going to the top 10. It really depends on your flavor. I like Rieger enough, but like Erick said, the concentration drops really kind of drive me nuts. And he did have those concentration drops at the combine as well. It's not just on tape. He had that in the formal setting. Like, this is the one chance that you get to assuage those issues. He had 2 just stone cold drops in the gauntlet, and I marked it down when I did my winners and losers piece from the quarterbacks and wide receivers, that Jalen Rieger continues to show those drop issues that we saw on tape. So with Ruggs, the hand security and everything that we've talked that into the dirt. I mean, why continue to just beat a dead horse? But let's see here. Let's see if we can't find another one really quick. Go ahead. Go ahead, Erick.
We talked Ruggs. Thank you, Jeffrey, for jumping in. Realistically, who's our 1B? Lamb, definitely based off of everything that I've heard. CeeDee Lamb seems to be the 1B behind Henry Ruggs. And I think that Denver will move up for either move up for one of those 3 receivers, stay put and get one of them at 15, or move down and get some extra picks and target like Mims or Jefferson or Christian Fulton or Jeff Gladney or a different cornerback and pick up extra picks. Basically, that's how I think that it's going to end up happening with it.
Yeah,
we'll see.
All right. So last one tonight before we get out of here. Brian's jumping back in. He doesn't have a super chat for us, but he has an interesting question. Center or defensive back at 46. Now, really just again, this all is depending on how the board falls. We can beat that down into the ground as well. Like, it really just depends on who is there. If you can get an opportunity to get like a Trevon Diggs, I like Trevon Diggs a lot. AJ Terrell, I think that he's going to go in the tail end of the first round. Noah Benigani, I don't think is going to be there for the Broncos at 46. Just, I don't like him as a fit there. If you can get a Matt Hennessy, something like that, sure, then absolutely. It just depends on who the board, like how the board falls and who is actually available. Really, it's hard, it's too hard to tell. I like both fits. If you find a guy that you like and a guy that fits what you want to do, there's just either or is fine to me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it just definitely depends on how the board falls. I mean, if Jalen Johnson's there and Matt Hennessy's there, then that's a hard discussion to have. I think in the end, I'm going Jalen Johnson, but again, it just really depends on how the board falls.
Yeah.
Born a Beast comes in and says, I think Erick has a video on that. I'm not sure what you're talking about with the video, but yes, guys, remember to check out my video or the videos that we have up on YouTube. There's a full playlist of the Finding Broncos series, which is my series that I've been doing for multiple years. And basically what they do is they're about a minute and a half each, and they just talk about how certain prospects fit with the Broncos. And just go ahead and check them out. If you guys want to find out if a good player is a good fit or not, that is probably the easiest way.
Yes. All right. So for tonight, guys, that's going to wrap it up. We're going to stop here for tonight. Thank you all once again for joining the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. You guys can follow the show at DVDD_pod. You can follow me and Erick. You can follow me at Sanderson MHH, and for Erick at Erick Trickel. Notice the CK in Erick and the EL in Trickel. Also, make sure you guys are following at Mile High Huddle for instant news, updates, and analysis on your Denver Broncos, especially after the draft. I know that I have a lot of plans on doing some film breakdowns and stuff like that. And Nick, Erick, Carl, all the guys are going to be doing some film breakdowns, how guys fit. This is a big time for the Broncos and making sure that you guys are up to date with everything that's going on in the NFL draft and stuff like that. Also, make sure you guys head on over to at Huddle Up Pod, get your swag on, get you a hat, get you a hoodie, t-shirt, something like that. Make sure you guys are hitting the like button, sharing it out to all your friends. Do whatever you can to help us out here just a little bit. Now, Erick, you got some things on your head, and it looks like they're a little bit cockeyed, but any last words before we get out of here?
Yeah, definitely. What's new? Hold on real quick. Disappointed. What's new says disappointed in that false Randy Moss comment from last night. Missed live. I don't know what false comment you're talking about. I mean, you can definitely go check it out. If you're talking about how he learned how to route run in the NFL, go check out a bunch of interviews. They're out there. They're on YouTube. But anyways, guys, yes, make sure you guys are leaving a like on your way out. Make sure you guys are smashing that like button. All that stuff that Lance said, go ahead and do that. Don't forget that tomorrow at 6:15 p.m. Eastern or Mountain Standard Time. I almost said Eastern. That's incorrect. We will be doing our annual mock draft roundtable. All the guys are going to be on it, including Lance and myself. That's going to be going live at, again, 6:15 Mountain Standard Time. Make sure you guys are there to see how that goes down and just see the funny stuff that Nick and I and Lance and I and everybody and I get into. But also on top of that, keep an ear out because we do have plans for the NFL draft. The plans are set for Thursday and Friday right now. I'm pretty sure you guys will get a lot more information about it tomorrow when Chad is back on the show running the whole Mile High Huddle roundtable mock draft. So, guys, make sure you're there for that information because you guys are going to want to hear it because it is some amazing news that you guys are going to be getting. So, with that, guys, thank you guys for tuning in. Stay safe out there.
Yes. One last quick thing that I saw here. Jeffrey Green coming in with a comment. I have to get the super chats working. Great job, Eric and Lance. First off, no, you don't. Just joining us and having a good time talking some football with us. Don't worry about the super chats, man. We get it. We understand. We just love that you guys are here. So
real quick, what's new? He had 17 touchdowns his rookie year, 1,300 yards, not knowing how to run routes. Not true. It is true. Multiple interviews out there. I remember watching them multiple times. I just watched them just last week, I think it was, because somebody sent them to me. It's definitely true. And here's the thing about that is people can still perform without knowing how to run routes in the NFL.
Yes.
Especially at that time. But that's
anyways, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. For Eric, I am Lance. You all stay safe. Take care. Have a great evening. Thank you for joining us on Dove Valley Deep Divers. Have a great night.